Tim just did. I'm not going to read the whole story, because I want you to wonder what happens at the end. And, and I have to say, I'm very proud to be in this book. This book, I think, is a beautiful book. This book is sexy. This book is sexy. If you're single, buy this book, put it on your table, bring a date home. They're going to see it. I want to make love to this person.
Yes.
Probably don't leave the book.
That's how good this book is. Now I leave it. I have about 12 copies. I leave all over the house.
And that's good because our dogs chewed up at this point.
That's right. So,
Just don't make any compromised bagels.
I won't. And I'm going to apologize at the outset for anyone who might be offended. There is one bad word in this.
Ooh, lay on me, man.
There it comes. Anyway, this is called Allison Tarleton's Jar. I was 13 the first time I saw Allison Tarleton's uterus. Her son Dewey was my best friend, and I had come to his house after school to hang out, play video games. "Hello, Ridge," Mrs. Tarleton said when I walked through the kitchen door. "I want to show you something." Dewey's mom sat at a squat Formica table, smoking, drinking a Pabst Blue Ribbon, and reading the National Enquirer. She and my mother were both 42, but Allison Tarleton looked much younger. She kept her long, rust-colored hair tied in a ponytail that tapered to a point 3/4 of the way down her back. It was rare to see her wearing shoes or makeup, but it was common to find Allison Tarleton wearing a dashiki shirt and tight white bell-bottoms, as though time had stopped in 1971. Mrs. Tarleton stubbed out her cigarette and stood slowly, pushing both palms against the red and orange swirled tabletop. As she crossed the room, she leaned forward as if top-heavy, one hand pressed against her belly. "You okay, Mrs. Tarleton?" I asked. "Dewey told me you were in the hospital, but he said it was no big deal." "I guess to a man it isn't a big deal." She snorted a short laugh that caused her to wince. "I had a hysterectomy." From the living room, I could hear the high-pitched sounds of Space Invaders. "Do you know what a hysterectomy is, Ridge?" "Not really," I said, meaning not at all. "Well, let me show you." Pursing her lips, she let out a long breath, then hobbled over to a cabinet. She opened it, pushed aside cans of lima beans and corn niblets, and lifted out a large pickle jar. "This is my uterus," she said, extending it to me. Floating in cloudy fluid was a wrinkly pink blob. I knew from health class that a uterus is where babies grow, but it was creepy knowing this particular one had come out of the woman standing in front of me. Looking at the jar made me think of the time Dewey and I had paid to see the freak show at the Jackson County Fair, figuring we'd see all sorts of creepy live oddities of nature like the Elephant Man. We were disappointed to discover nothing more than a table lined with jars containing shriveled specimens of two-headed piglets or five-legged calf fetuses. "Dewey lived in this for 9 months," Mrs. Tarleton said, "but all the straining I had to do to push him out weakened the muscles holding it in place. After years of barely hanging on, they finally gave out. 2 weeks ago, the damn thing nearly slid clean out." She was grinning when I looked up from the floating mass. "You should have seen the look on the doctor's face when I asked him if I could take it home. Of course, they sealed it up in some container that no one could see into, so I put it in this jar." "That's really cool, Mrs. T. I'm going to go see what Dewey's doing." I was afraid she might open the jar and ask me if I wanted to touch it.